Hey Suncrest, my name is Laura, and I wanted to share a few years back, Greg challenged the crowd to be consistent at church. He said, don't be a Christmas, Easter kind of person, be a 52 weeks a year kind of person. And that stuck with me, and I decided to take that challenge seriously. Now, at the time, I didn't know what God would do with that simple decision to keep showing up. But since then, I have been on serving teams, small groups. I've even stepped into leadership. I've had the opportunity to be on staff. I've been part of baptisms, and I watched people take their own steps of faith. And through it all, I've seen God continually work, not just in church, but in me. And now sometimes I think that we're waiting for this really big moment, this life-changing moment. But God really just is asking us to be faithful in those small, ordinary moments, to keep showing up. Because consistency creates a space for God to move. And now that Christmas challenge changed the way that I look at church, and it changed me.
My name is Maggie Kyleman. I stepped foot for the first time into Suncrest on December 24th of 2018. I went my first year every single week, all 52 weeks of the year, got baptized on my year anniversary, and then I decided to make the commitment to never miss a week. So I actually had perfect attendance for 5 entire years. And the only time now that I will miss is if I'm physically not here. And then I'll, of course, do the on-demand. So I don't miss church. But my journey has been absolutely incredible. Since I stepped foot into those doors, it was like Jesus took my heart. I went all in, and I have seen God move in mighty ways in every part of my life. Who I am now and who I was then are two completely different people. But two huge things that have happened in my life since stepping foot into that church is my marriage was restored, my family was reunited, and my father, who I hadn't talked to in 30 years, I have reconnected with and have a relationship with. I can tell you something every single day, the way that God moves in my life, the way that He orders my steps, and the way that He speaks to me and directs my life. And it's because I'm consistent. It's because I'm obedient. Every single church message I take wholeheartedly and figure out what I can do with it, how I can take that message and put it into practice into my life. And because of that, I know with all my heart, soul, and everything that I am, that has changed my entire life.
Yeah, so I let you watch that, and then I say, how's everybody doing? Everybody's doing great, right? So real quick, 2 things just to kind of acknowledge the things that we're still in the midst of. Obviously, schools have been disrupted. Lots of Lake County still doesn't have power, including multiple staff members of ours. But I just want to say, number 1, thank you to Suncrest. You have responded in ways that are very encouraging and inspiring to me, and I know to the community around us. I must have had 25 people say to me after not making it for our large group serve thing last Friday night with all those trees and branches, they said, oh Greg, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it. I was busy helping my neighbor clean out his basement. And I'm like, that's an excused absence from your pastor, okay? Like, it doesn't have to be our thing. We have to be doing our thing out there. And loving people well really, really matters. So that is the second thing, which is keep it up. Keep serving selflessly. I think serving selflessly and the word love are essentially synonyms. And the scriptures would cast the vision to say, they will know we are Christians by our love. Because we're the ones who are out there serving selflessly, not looking for something in return. And I just think it's so powerful. And it is both human nature and a particular quality of suburban Americans that usually if you can get past a crisis for like 5 or 10 days, you just forget about it. It's real life, right? I mean, if you've ever had a loved one who died, everyone rushed in the first 5 or 10 days, and then it felt like everyone disappeared. And when a crisis hits this in a region that we're responsible for and responsible to, I don't want our church to be the ones who let it fade just 5 or 10 days into the crisis. So if we keep showing up, week after week after week, day after day. And we've shifted our strategy here in ways that are awesome. After you all texted into the word damage last weekend, we're, instead of doing a large scale thing all together, we have found where there's needs within our church, people who older people who are disabled, can't have help. We're sending teams to them. We're doing it with our partners in Gary. There are hundreds of opportunities on that webpage that I put in my note from Greg this week. And I'm asking all of you just to keep stepping up. That's who we are. So thank you and keep showing up. So last weekend, I started this teaching series called Declarations, and off to a pretty good start. I had so many great conversations. I saw people literally drawing a line, last Saturday was one thing, and starting Sunday, it is something new. And stepping into, as we talked about last week, taking responsibility. But the whole concept of this 5 weeks where we're talking about these declarations is that, of course, a lot of us want life to be different. And I talk to so many people all the time. People tell me they wish life was different. They hope for life to be different. They might even pray that life would be different, but it's not getting different. Today looks an awful lot like yesterday, and it seems a little hopeless at this stage that tomorrow would be any different. And so it's almost as if we struggle to gain traction, to think that it's really possible. But this is not complicated. The pathway to traction is through making certain declarations in our lives. And actually, when we say them out loud to God, we say them out loud so that other people can hear us. And we say them out loud, even in the way that we speak to ourselves. It really, really matters. Let me give you a couple of examples. I think probably if you all would think about it for a while, you would come to the conclusion that one of the reasons we have trouble getting traction on transformation in our lives is that we are a world full of people, and I'm the most guilty of anyone in this room of this, of wanting to keep our options open. We are want to keep our options open kind of people. Yes, I would like to do that, but what if something better comes up? What if it's difficult? What if I get this opportunity? We like to keep our options open. And I want to just show you very briefly the power of declaration in the scriptures on 2 of these occasions. There's a story in the Old Testament where Joshua is standing up. He's leading the nation of Israel at this stage. And he actually says this to all the people who are around him. He says, you'll have to choose this day who you will serve. I know that some of you want to keep worshiping the gods of your ancestors who lived beyond the Euphrates. And this happens in your own spiritual journeys today. You want to keep holding on to something your parents felt was important or your grandparents felt were important, and you're not breaking out into something of your own. He says, or you might want to worship the God of the Amorites who occupy the land where we are living. He's like, life will probably go a lot easier for you socially around here if you just buy in with the gods of the local people. And then he says this, but as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. We will draw a line. I know there's reasons that'll pull you one direction. I know you keep your options open just to go with whatever the flow is going culturally. But I'm telling you today, from this day forward, me and my house, we know who we are. We know who we serve. We're not going back. I'm going to say it out loud. I'm going to get some traction on it. And tomorrow will not be the same as yesterday. That's a declaration. Fast forward to the New Testament. There's a group of people kind of awkwardly having a conversation about who Jesus is around Jesus. And they're kind of speculating like, oh, what's his influence? And they're referencing some people from the past. They're like, well, maybe he's like Elijah to us. Maybe he's like Jeremiah. Maybe he's like John the Baptist. And Peter, who was a breakthrough, draw a line in the sand kind of guy, says to them all, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. You're not one in a long list of prophets. Jesus, you are the unique one. You are the one that we are waiting for. You are the one that has been promised to us for centuries, even millennia. You are the Son of God. And on this day, by making this statement, I'm closing off all the other options. I'm not going to speculate that you might be a little of this or a little of that. This is who you are. You're who I'm following. Let's go. And there's something that if you and I actually want change in our lives, That means we have to disperse of all the other options and say, this is who I am and this is where I'm going. It is a declaration. Now, last weekend, we talked about the declaration to take responsibility. And there was a long statement that a lot of us have embraced, but there was kind of the short version of that statement, that's on me. And I got to tell you, it's been pretty satisfying for me this week to hear so many people say, that's on me. I've heard myself saying it. I've had it come up at my house with members of my family who were here last weekend. That's pretty great, right? I had it happen at the office here. My office, they were all at church last weekend, right? But maybe you've had it at your office. I actually went through a drive-through this week, and they got my order wrong. And then when they corrected it, the person handed me the bag, and he looked at me square in the eye, and he goes, that's on me. And I'm like, do you go to my church? And I still don't know. It was like a little smile, like I had this like Home Alone moment where like the gold tooth kind of shines around. I'm like, I don't know. Are we having a moment here? I don't know. But anyway, it's really powerful for you and I to stop making excuses, stop blaming others, stop saying they have to change before I change, and say, no, that's on me. And in 3 particular circumstances, I've talked to people who had been abused when they were young. And what happened to them was 0% their responsibility. But after last week's message, they said, I'm not responsible for what happened to me, but I am responsible to make progress toward my healing for the rest of my life, for the person that I'm married to, for the kids that I'm raising. That's on me. And my greatest respect is for people who would step in to say, well, now as an adult and as a follower of Jesus, I will take responsibility because who I am affects the people around me, even if I wasn't responsible for what happened to me. And I say, thank you for being the kind of people who make declarations so that tomorrow will not be the same as yesterday. So today we're going to look at our second declaration. Like last week, I'm going to first put it up on the screen. I'm going to have us all read it out loud together just to try it on. You're not committing to it yet. I just want you to kind of see how it feels when we do it. And then at the end of the service, if it is a declaration that you feel you need to make, that you are going to commit yourself to draw a line in the sand, then that's the time to make our commitments. This declaration is about consistency. Consistency. Let me read it first, and I'll have you read it with me. It says, I will be consistent where I've been sporadic. Neither distraction or discouragement will interrupt the change that I seek. And I'm a little curious, actually, if something's already coming to mind for you. There's a place in your life where you've sporadically done something. You've occasionally done something, but it has actually been marked with inconsistency. And that you know already that if you did something consistently that you have been doing sporadically and you did not let discouragement or distraction take you off your course, you will experience the change that you seek. Would all of you read this out loud with me? Let's read it together. I will be consistent where I've been sporadic. Neither distraction or discouragement will interrupt the change that I seek. And so we'll start with kind of a funnel. And just wonder, like even right now, if the Spirit is possibly prompting you from the inside if you're a follower of Jesus, from the outside if you're not a follower of Jesus, to say, you might already know what the thing in your life is. I'm going to tell you a story that I think is quite inspirational about consistency, and then I want to break this down into some very helpful tools so we can get traction that maybe we didn't get before, to think about placing consistency into our lives on some of the most important parts of our lives. In the Old Testament, there's a story of Daniel. Daniel lived at a time when the Babylonians had come and they had conquered the city of Jerusalem. This is about 605 BC. And in the years following the conquering of Jerusalem, which you can look up in the history books, what the Babylonians did is they went and essentially kind of abducted young Jewish boys and men from Jerusalem, and they brought them to the Babylonian Empire to try to integrate them into a leadership system. They would have them eat what Babylonians ate, be educated in ways. There were privileges that went along with it. And they were looking for young boys and men who had potential. And when they looked at Daniel, among others, they saw someone who had potential. They invited him to their country. He went through everything that they had designed for him. And then it's actually kind of wild because he rises up through the ranks with a sense of consistency. I mean, you probably know this about consistency. It's very attractive. If you find someone you can count on, we're just like magnets to those kind of people. It's very attractive. It's an honorable, it's a noble quality to be consistent. And so King Darius, who's the king at the time, starts to identify that Daniel, in particular, out of this crowd of others, is rising up through the ranks. And he's actually going to accelerate Daniel past some of the other leaders in his kingdom. And now some of those other leaders are upset about it. So what do those leaders do? They start to go on a little campaign against Daniel. They go into all the past. They're looking through his social media. They're looking through the records. They're like, surely let's dig up some dirt on it. Let's get this guy canceled, right? We got to get this guy out of the system. And they look everywhere they can because Daniel's been in the system for a while. And this is what it says. They tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel in his conduct of the government affairs, but they were unable to do so because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. And I just want you to appreciate who Daniel was. He wasn't necessarily an all-star. He wasn't the standout person. He didn't lead the army to have the greatest conquest ever, and now he's moving into this position. He was just someone who showed up. And when given the opportunity to be corrupt, he certainly had those opportunities. To get a little kickback on the side, to get some tickets to the game in exchange for a little contract here or there. Things that probably seemed harmless in the whole, he just didn't do them. He wasn't corrupt, nor was he negligent. Now, I mean, we all can own this. Maybe you even would think of yourself like, actually, that's what I am. I'm negligent. I know the right things to do, and I do them some of the time, but I'm the one who let the balls drop. And Daniel was consistent. So since they couldn't find anything bad about him, these guys who were a little jealous of him trump up a new plan. They go to the king, and they're basically going to flatter the king and try to get the king to put a new decree into place. So they walk in with King Darius, and they're basically like, oh, you're the best king ever. You are the GOAT. Those are some sweet shoes that you're wearing. I love everything about you. Don't you think everyone should love everything about you? In fact, people should probably worship you, pray to you. Doesn't that sound good? And King Darius got on board with that pretty quickly. So signed a decree, said, hey, there's kind of a 30-day window here, but if people don't do this with King Darius, then to the lion's den. Now, when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day, he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to God. And this is the line, just as he had done before. This wasn't a new thing. This wasn't Daniel sticking it to the king. Hey, I know there's a new decree, so I'm going to start praying because I'm rebellious like that. No. Daniel is just doing the same thing he had always done 3 times a day for years and years and years. And if you think passing a law that says he's going to the lion's den is going to make him become negligent or corrupt in his faith with God. You read Daniel wrong. He is consistent. And this is important to me because, I mean, sometimes when there's an event, you'll see people who kind of want to stand up and get the spotlight and take the attention, but they haven't been doing anything until up to the event. But Daniel, all he's doing is being consistent. He's following through on the habit that he's always had. And this, I'll just maybe say a couple of things about this. What really matters to me about how Suncrest, you responded to the storm over the last 10 days is that, it was a new storm. It was a radical level. But in most ways, Suncrest, you just did what you've been doing for years. You give generously, and we have money to help with needs in Lake County. You step up to serve, and there's dozens and dozens of you that serve with Down Syndrome Association, Sojourner Truth House, all those things. It's like, it's not new. It's what we've been doing. It's what we're going to keep doing. It's so important. But since Daniel did this, the king had to follow through on his decree. He actually wasn't even too happy about it, but he's put Daniel into the den of lions. In a really beautiful way, God intervenes, and Daniel is consistent, and the lions do not attack Daniel. And so the next day they come to get him, and like, oh, he's still alive. And this is what it says. No wound was found on him because he had trusted in his God. And I'm like, that's true, but was it because he trusted in his God when he was in the lion's den? I've never seen anyone trust in God in the lion's den if they hadn't been trusting in God. Day after day, week after week, year after year, talking to God, listening to God, feeling the security of God, feeling the hope of God. Yes, because he trusted God, but not because he trusted God when he was in the pit, because he had built his trust in God over time. This is the power of consistency. Now, I'm going to read a passage, and I'm going to ruffle some feathers here, okay? Or at least I hope I do. Training is a good way to think about consistency. You're going to do, instead of doing something sporadically, you're going to do it every day. You're going to do it every week. It's going to be the rhythm of your life. You're committed to it. It's going to build something out for you. And here's what the scriptures say. Scriptures say, train yourself to be godly. For physical training is of some value. It's not none. It's some. It's also not nearly as much as training yourself to be godly. Because godliness has value for all things, holding promise both for the present life and the life to come. And I don't want you to miss this, because you might have certain things in your life that have already popped into mind. You're like, yeah, I need to be more consistent with that. And you're thinking like your physical health. And I'm for your physical health. I'm just asking you to amp it up today to something more important than your physical health. You might be thinking, you know what? I am inconsistent financially. I sometimes go on a spree. I just can't seem to save routinely. Listen, I want you to save routinely. But I want this message to be about things that are more important than training financially. I know some of you pay a lot of attention to your appearance, even if it's not your physical health. You spend a fair amount of time in the morning making sure that you are presentable, and God bless you for it. I'm not against that, okay? I see people in their pajama pants at pretty decent restaurants. I'm like, you could have done better. But, you're not going to be consistent and training for presenting yourself physically and ignoring the godliness part of this, right? Because there is some value in the financial, in the physical, in the appearance. But it doesn't touch the value of training yourself for godliness, which has value both for this life and for the life to come. It has value for the moments in this life that you cannot predict right now. You probably won't be in a lion's den, but you'll be in a storm of some sort. And when you're there, it's what you did over the last 10 years, what you did consistently for the last year that matters. You can't get ready on a dime. And so, I want you to accelerate the training for godliness and draw a line in the sand and say, I understand this is more important than my physical. I will give more time and more attention to this than I give to my physical training. I will give more time and more attention to this than I do to my financial planning. I will give more time and more attention to this than I do to my appearance. You know, it's kind of funny to me because when I was thinking this week about consistency, I'm like, well, it's a message about consistency, but we're all consistent with something. I mean, most of the people in this room are very consistent in scrolling through your phone. Very, very consistent. It's not a matter of whether you're consistent or not. The question is, what are you focusing your consistency on? And so I'm going to give you 8 possibilities. And there's for sure more than 8. I'm just laying 8 in front of you to be like, okay, maybe this is your consistency line in the sand. 4 of the possibilities are daily possibilities. Daily scripture, daily quietness where I'm pausing and reflecting, daily confession of my sins to God, daily gratitude for what I have. These are godly habits. Question, how many of you have at least read the scriptures sporadically? Show of hands, help me out. You've read them before. You've read them sporadically. I won't make you raise your hand if they're consistently. But this is the difference maker. I declare I will do consistently what I have done sporadically, because sporadic does not produce what consistent produces. About 6 weeks ago on the confession one, I introduced this concept to our 7-year-old. You know, we've been saying nightly prayers for a while. I hope that you do that with your kids. Man, that consistency, that thing that you're teaching your kids at bedtime every night, oh my goodness. Don't miss that, parents. Don't miss that. And if you need help knowing how to do it, we'll help you. Suncrest kids, me, whoever, we'll help you. But we've been praying every night and wanting to pause, to have a little conversation about God. And I thought about 6 weeks ago, at about 7 years old, it's the right time to introduce the daily confession. It's just an awareness, an acknowledgement that each day I should pause and say, God, I've messed up today. I messed up today, and I need your forgiveness. I'm grateful that I have your forgiveness based on what Christ has done for me on the cross. It's a beautiful thing to have confidence in forgiveness. And we went for a few weeks, and I got what you'd expect to get. My son saying the same thing every night, and God, forgive me of my sins. And I'm like, hey, how about Davion? If when you're thinking, God, forgive me of your sins, of a sin you had that day, that you say that to God in this prayer. That will be a much more helpful, consistent habit rather than just kind of going with a rote prayer, as helpful as the general confession is. And he said to me, he's like, do I have to say it out loud? Fair question, right? It's the same thing you'd ask me. Don't judge my 7-year-old about that. And I told him, no, you don't have to say it out loud. Dad doesn't even need to hear this. But it would be a really healthy habit to start at 7 years old, to say that every day, I'm going to think back over my day and acknowledge the specific places where I fell short and ask for God's grace and his forgiveness, knowing that he gives it to me to begin the next day. I don't know for you on these habits which one or ones are yours. I do know that if you do these consistently, it will shape you. Weekly. To engage in communion weekly. Oh, it's the most beautiful habit. To make sure that you're encountering the cross and the gospel and understanding what Christ did for us and understanding our forgiveness and grace and moving forward in his power. Oh, communion. Worship. like singing, lifting up your voice, opening your mind to the Creator, not making it about us, but making life about Him just for a season to worship, to take instruction from the Scriptures, to say, I'll sit under someone else's teaching who will guide me and encourage me and convict me. Now, you might put all three of these things together and you're like, that's called going to church, Greg. And it is. But I don't like telling you to go to church. I like asking you to be consistent every week in taking communion, in worshiping God, and sitting under the instruction of the Scriptures. Lots of people do that sporadically. Lots of people. To do it consistently can really shape you. And then to serve, to be the kind of person who is out there, who has a way that you're going to make sure every single week I'm out there serving. I'm not a week will go by where I'm living for myself. This is huge. So let me give you three kind of ideas to help build out this consistency in our lives. Why is greater than what, small is greater than big, and progress is greater than being perfect. Let me take these one at a time just for a moment. Why is greater than what? So you might start to think, oh, this is what I want to do. But unless you know why you want to do it, it will probably fall apart on you. The why is everything. This is why I'm actually no big fan of New Year's resolutions at all. In some ways, track all the way through with me. New Year's resolutions are the silliest things. And maybe one's been helpful to you. I'm not trying to dismiss that they could be helpful in someone's life. But if your why for doing something is because it's January 1st, that's not a very good why. If you should stop smoking on October 15th and you're like, January 1st. What are we even doing? And so we should not be surprised that a date turning over on the calendar often leads us to failure in the things that we're doing. A lot of people think consistency is about willpower, but actually it's about why power. If you know why you're doing something, not out of obligation, it's why I don't want to use the phrase go to church. Why? Because God deserves my worship. Because I don't want to miss an encounter with the cross. Because I am humble enough to know that I need teaching in my life. Why? Would you pray with your kids every night? Surely you have the why on that. That you don't want your kids for a moment to think there are other things in this world that are more important than them knowing who they are in relationship to God and stepping into a faithfulness rhythm. You have to know the why. The passage here is from Colossians 3. Whatever you do, work it with all your heart as working for the Lord. The why has to have a loftier, substantial move. So let's be clear on our why. Small is greater than big. I'm sure there's a math teacher in here who's going to argue with me about the logical, but just work with me here. Most people want change fast, and they think they will get to change by making some drastic step. And it almost never works. When people start at the church here and they're excited about what they're hearing and they're, like, I'm gonna jump in. How many times have I heard someone come up to me? They've only been here a little while and they're like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna read the Bible. I'm gonna read the Bible, the whole Bible, in a year. And I've gotten more bold over the years. So these days I'm like, you probably won't. You probably won't. I appreciate the sentiment. I honor the desire. But I've been a pastor for 30 years. And only 3 times have I made it all the way through the Bible in a year. And if the goal is you think you need to get through the Bible in a year or you fail, then you get discouraged and you get distracted. And I'm like, if I were you, I'd just read a verse each day. That's probably what I'd do. Just one verse. Maybe a few verses. I would start small and start simple and be consistent. You know, I mean, it's kind of weird, right? But like, it's small steps, just a lot of them, each day, every day, and you get there. You don't want to see me try to leap from here to there, do you? I'm not doing that. Start small. Now, maybe you've heard this before. Zechariah says, do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. And sometimes we have such a big vision, and we have this grand dream, and we're going to tell everybody, but it's just like, oh, just simmer down. Start small. Take one or two of those daily things, take one of the weekly things, and just do that every week. This is what the scriptures say. Let me tell you what the science says about this. People have been studying how change works in people's lives and why so many people fail at it. I'm going to show you 3 graphs together here. Here's the first one. This is how we think change should happen. We want to see results. It's going to take some time. And so we think, well, if I just start marching, then I'll make my way up. But this is actually not how change happens. This next graph will show you how it actually happens. And this is very informative because when you start, you don't see many results. You don't see nearly the results that you thought you might see. And it can become discouraging or distracting. And so most people give up somewhere in here, and they never get to experience where it actually takes off. And I'm encouraging you to start small and be consistent so that you can end up here. The scientists actually have a term for this section right here. It's called the Valley of Disappointment. The Valley of Disappointment. Because it is disappointment. I mean, some of you are working out physically, right? And you're like, well, I worked out 3 times. Let me go watch myself flex. And you will be disappointed, right? But you work out 3 times a week for 3 years, and it'll be very impressive. This is so powerful. I'm going to show you a picture that I have older kids too. So this is what I send to my kids in my 20s, trying to get them to save money. Okay, this is my compounding interest chart. All right, I got an app on my phone. I screenshot it, and look, I'm like, here's the deal: $100 a month. $100 a month, which feels like a lot to someone who's 20 or 22 or 26. $100 a month, every month for 45 years till you're 65 becomes, in an index fund, $1 million. And look at this. It might be a little hard to see on the screen, but there's blue and green distinction here. The blue is what you're putting in. The green is what it's becoming. This is the way that it works. Suncrest has a vision to impact 1 million people through starting to multiply new churches in our first 40 years. This is the same chart. And we're about right here right now. And since we're on year 32 and we're not quite halfway there yet, I mean, we've only helped hundreds of thousands of people, not 1 million people, find a relationship with God through a new church. But it's going to accelerate. And it's all about all that. Now get this. You can even mess this up a little bit. Because progress is greater than perfect. Look at this with me. If you put $100 a month into an account and you miss it 15 times, it doesn't matter hardly at all. Sometimes it gets so black and white for us, and I say I'm going to do this every day, and then when I don't on day 6 or I don't on day 15, I'm like, well, Guess I'll forget it because I wasn't perfect. But perfect is the enemy of progress. Progress means that you start to fall in love with what's happening. You start to fall in love with the habit itself, with being consistent, rather than falling in love with perfection. In Psalm 119, it says this, your word is a lamp for my feet and a light for my path. I will say to all of you that the reason I read the scriptures every day, and if you think, Greg, do you miss some days? Yes, I miss some days. The reason I try to read it every day is I don't expect God to show me what life is going to be like 10 years from now. He doesn't say. And it's a spotlight to show you your future. He says, it is a lamp for your feet. And you're going to take your steps like this. And God's word's going to show you what you need today. And it's going to show you what you need tomorrow. And then you're going to read it on Thursday. You're like, that didn't make any sense to me at all. But you're going to get up and read it on Friday. And it'll help you with that day. And it's just like, oh, I know. I know where this builds to if you do a little bit each day and you don't get down on yourself when you miss a day. Now, we have a resource. It's in our app. I'm going to show you this very quickly, and then I'll move on. This is the front page of our app. I don't know why my picture's twice on the front page, but anyway, if you're down here, you can just use our Suncrest app, which you can get at the QR code, and you touch the word Bible, then it comes up to this. Now, what you'll notice is if you touched Bible, it came to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, which is not the reading plan. So you have to go down here and touch plan, and then it brings up what today is. And when you touch today, August 20, then it gets you your scripture for today. And most of the scriptures in the Suncrest reading plan are about this long. And I just think, oh, you could do that. You could do that. You could do it every day. I had my plan. I'm reading through the Bible this year. And then I was traveling this summer. And I missed like 5 out of 10 days. And there was a little bit of me that's like, I got so much catching up. I don't know if I'll ever catch up. Maybe I should just give up. But this is it. What if I get done on January 5th next year instead of December 31st? I mean, you can't fall in love with the perfect. You have to fall in love with the process. And in the book of Hebrews, it speaks similarly even about a church being gathered. It says this in Hebrews chapter 10, let us not neglect meeting together as some people do. Of course, some people do. But encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near. And this is just an encouragement to all of us. What's worse than the pastor preaching about church attendance? I don't know anything worse than that. But I care about your soul. And I want you to see the transformation that Maggie and Laura had by saying, actually, I'm going to prioritize this. Do you know the average person that attends church, I don't know if this is true for Suncrest, this is just a national statistic, attends 1.7 times per month. 1.7 times per month. And some of you are like, that's terrible. I'm way more consistent. You should check your own calendar because you may not be as consistent as you think. And some of you are like, that's a lot. And for those of you who are like, that's a lot, I get it. Some of you are brand new to church. You didn't go to church for the first 32 years of your life, and now you're here. And if you come like once a month, you're like, I'm killing it. I'm killing it. And you are. You just have to build it out and make it a weekly habit. I was talking to somebody about our database. I'm like, yeah, there's about 4,000 people who call Suncrest home. Like, I thought the attendance was only about 1,700. I'm like, yeah, this is the way it works. Because people come about 1.7 times. I don't know if you know this. Do you know which generation, boomers, Xers, millennials, Gen Z, has the highest frequency of attendance statistically? Gen Z. Gen Z. Why? Because boomers have options. Right? You got a little money in your pocket? Got some grandkids to go see? You got that? Yeah. And you'd be surprised how infrequently you have communion. just telling you, these habits really matter. So I'm going to let you lay your eyes back on the 8 habits. Here's the 4 daily ones: scripture, quietness, confession, gratitude. Even right now, I kind of say, I wonder if the Spirit has something for me in this. And let's go to the weekly habits. And of course, you can group these, but like communion, I'm going to worship God. I'm going to take instruction. I'm going to serve. And just kind of ask ourselves, like, hey, is there a place I'm sporadic that today I'll declare I will be consistent and I will not let discouragement or distraction keep me from the change that I seek? Would you stand with me? Here's the statement. I don't want you to feel any pressure to make it. If you sense God's prompting you, if you sense this is what you want in your life, then say this out loud with me. And if it's not, don't fake it, okay? So for all of us who want to declare, let's do this together. I will be consistent where I've been sporadic. Neither distraction or discouragement will interrupt the change I seek. Well, I really hope that was helpful for integrating faith with life. Listen, if you're in Northwest Indiana, I'd love to have you join us in person. Head over to suncrest.org and plan your visit.